The galaxy had one rule that every species learned quickly after humanity joined the stars. It was not written in any treaty. It was not discussed in any council meeting. It simply existed, passed down from old ones to young ones, across 1,000 different worlds. The rule was simple: never harm a human child. Commander Nathan Cole was sleeping when the alarm woke him. It was 3 a.m, ship time. He ran to the bridge of his vessel, the Starward Hope, still pulling on his uniform jacket. His first officer, Lieutenant Grace Kim, was already there, her face pale as she looked at the screens. "What happened?" Nathan asked Dot. Grace turned to him with fear in her eyes. A civilian transport was attacked near the Valrathi border. The ship was called the Meadowlark. It had 47 passengers. Nathan felt his stomach drop. Survivors? Unknown. But sir, there were children on that ship. 12 of them. They were on a school trip to see the nebula formations in Sector 9. Nathan stood very still. His hands began to shake, not from fear, but from anger. Pure, cold anger that started in his chest and spread through his whole body. "Who did this?" he asked quietly. "We are still trying to find out. But the attack happened in council space. Someone powerful ordered this." Nathan walked to the main screen and stared at the wreckage floating in the darkness of space. Pieces of metal that used to be a ship full of families. A ship full of children. He thought about his niece, Emma. She was 10 years old and loved looking at stars. She could have been on a trip like this. Any human child could have been on this ship 300 years ago. When humans first traveled beyond their own solar system, the other species of the galaxy did not think much of them. Humans were not the strongest. They were not the fastest. They did not live the longest lives. They did not have the best technology. The old and powerful races of the Galactic Council looked at humans and saw nothing special. Then the Kreth Dominion made a terrible mistake. The Kreth were a warrior race who believed in taking what they wanted. They raided a small human colony on the edge of known space. They killed many people and took prisoners. Among those prisoners were 16 children. The Kreth thought they could use the children to make humans afraid. They thought they could demand things from Earth in exchange for the children's safety. They thought humans would beg and cry and give them whatever they wanted. They were very, very wrong. What happened next became known across the galaxy as the Reckoning. Humanity did not send diplomats to talk. They did not send messages asking for peace. They did not offer money or territory or anything else. Instead, they sent their entire military force. Every ship, every soldier, every weapon. They tracked the Kreth to their home planet. They broke through every defense like it was made of paper. They found their children and brought them home safely. But they did not stop there. Within 3 months, the Kreth Dominion no longer existed. Not conquered, not occupied, simply destroyed. Their military was shattered into pieces. Their leaders were captured, tried in human courts, and executed. Their empire fell apart and never recovered. The message was clear to everyone in the galaxy. Humans could forgive many things. They could accept insults. They could negotiate trade problems. They could even lose small wars without seeking total revenge. But their children were sacred. Old. Ambassador Zixtal of the Venari Collective often told young diplomats about humans. He would sit them down and make them listen carefully. "You must understand something about humans," he would say. "They evolved as pack hunters on their home world. Their babies are helpless for almost 20 years. 20 years. In that time, human parents must protect their young from everything. Every instinct humans have, every feeling in their hearts, is built around keeping their children safe. When you threaten a human child, you are not threatening one family. You are threatening the entire species, and they respond like a species fighting for survival." The young diplomats would nod and promise to remember. Most of them did. The ones who forgot usually did not live long enough to regret it. Now, standing on the bridge of his ship, Nathan Cole felt something ancient wake up inside him. It was the same feeling every human felt when their children were in danger. It was older than civilization. It was older than language. It was the feeling of a parent ready to burn down the world to protect their young. "Get me Admiral Patricia Webb," he ordered. "Priority 1 communication. Tell her it is about the Madolark." Grace nodded and began working at her station. Then she stopped and looked at him. "Sir, there is something else. We just received intelligence about who ordered the attack." Nathan turned to face her. "Tell me." Grace swallowed hard. It was not pirates. It was not criminals. It was not some rogue military captain acting alone. Then who? "The Galactic Council, sir. The attack was voted on and approved by the Council itself. 7 species voted yes. 3 voted no. It was an official action." Nathan felt like he had been punched in the chest. The Council. The organization that was supposed to keep peace in the galaxy. The group that humans had worked with for 3 centuries. They knew about the children. They had the full passenger list before the vote. They knew exactly who was on that ship. Nathan closed his eyes. When he opened them again, they were hard as stone. "Get me Admiral Webb and start preparing the crew for combat operations." "Sir, are we going to war with the Council?" Nathan looked at the screen one more time. Somewhere out there, 12 human children were either dead or being held prisoner. 12 young lives that trusted the adults around them to keep them safe. 12 reasons for humanity to show the galaxy what they were truly capable of. "If those children are alive," Nathan said slowly, "we are going to get them back. If they are hurt, we are going to make someone pay. And if they are dead," he did not finish the sentence. He did not need to. Grace had served with humans long enough to understand. The look in Nathan's eyes was the same look she had seen in old recordings from the Kreth incident. It was the look of a species that had moved beyond anger into something much more. Dangerous, calm, patient, absolutely certain. The galaxy was about to remember why the first law existed, and the Galactic Council was about to learn that some laws should never be broken. In the darkness of space, pieces of the Madolark continued to drift. But somewhere, somehow, Nathan believed the children were still alive. He had to believe it. Because if he was right, there was still hope. And if he was right, humanity would tear apart anyone who stood between them and their young. It was simply what humans did. The Great Hall of the Galactic Council was the largest room ever built by any species. It floated in space. A massive station where representatives from all the major races came to make decisions about the galaxy. The ceiling was made of glass, and through it, 1,000,000 stars looked down on the beings below. High Chancellor Morthax of the Velrathi hegemony stood at the center of the hall. He was tall for his species, with green scales that covered his entire body. When he was nervous, his scales would change color slightly. Right now, they were shifting between green and yellow, but he tried to hide it by standing very straight. "The motion was passed legally," he announced to the assembled ambassadors. "Human expansion has gone too far. They take too much territory. They grow too fast. They needed to be reminded of their place in this galaxy." The attack on the transport was a military action, approved by proper vote. The human ambassador, a woman named Linda Park, sat in her chair without moving. She was small compared to most of the aliens in the room. Her dark hair was pulled back, and her face showed no emotion at all. Those who knew humans well recognized this as a very bad sign. When humans yelled and screamed, they were just angry. When they became quiet and still, something far worse was happening inside them. "Chancellor Morthax," Linda said, her voice calm and even, "the Madolark was a civilian ship. It carried no weapons. It had no soldiers on board. It was full of families, teachers, and children. 12 children between the ages of 8 and 14. Morthax waved one of his clawed hands dismissively. "Unfortunate, but necessary. Your species needed a message. You have been expanding too quickly, taking resources that other species need." This was a warning to slow down. A warning. Linda repeated the word like it tasted bad. "You attacked children as a warning." The ship was a valid military target under Council law. The vote was 7 species in favor, 3 opposed. Humans abstained from voting, as was proper, since the matter concerned them directly. Everything was done correctly. Linda stood up slowly. Every alien in the room watched her. Some of them leaned away without realizing they were doing it. Chancellor, I must ask you one question. My government requires that I ask it, and I need you to answer truthfully so that it becomes part of the official record. Morthax's scales flickered yellow again. Ask your question. Before the vote to attack the Meadowlark, did the council know that there were children on board? The room became very quiet. So quiet that you could hear the soft hum of the station's engines far below. Morthax lifted his chin. We had access to the passenger list, yes? We knew who was on the ship, and you attacked anyway? The vote was proper. The action was legal. Your emotions about children do not change the law, Linda smiled. It was the kind of smile that made several ambassadors start checking where the exits were. Then I am authorized to inform this council that the United Earth government considers this attack an act of war against humanity. Not against our ships. Not against our territories. Against our children. The room exploded with noise. Ambassadors jumped to their feet, shouting in a dozen different languages. Some were angry. Some were scared. Some were trying to call their homeworlds with warnings. Morthax's voice rose above the chaos. You cannot declare war on the entire council. It would be suicide. You are one species against 7. Linda gathered her documents and placed them neatly in her bag. She moved like she had all the time in the world. Chancellor, I suggest you look at your history files. Find the records about the Kreth incident. Study them carefully. She walked toward the exit, then stopped at the door and turned back. You have 72 hours to return our children, alive and unhurt. If even one of them has been harmed, there will be no negotiations. No deals, no mercy. Only consequences. She left the room. Behind her, the shouting continued, but it was changing. The anger was fading. Fear was taking its place. Old Zixtol of the Venari Collective sat in his chair with his 4 eyes closed. He had warned the council not to do this. He had begged them to remember history, but they had not listened. They thought times had changed. They thought humanity had become soft after 3 centuries of peace. Tears leaked from Zixtol's eyes. Not tears of sadness, but tears of knowing what was coming. Fools, he whispered. We are all such fools. A young Velrathi diplomat approached Morthax after the meeting. Chancellor, surely the humans are bluffing. Their fleet is smaller than our combined forces. They cannot possibly win a war against 7 species. Morthax's scales had settled into a sickly yellow color. He stared at the door where Linda had disappeared. Find the records of the Kreth incident, he ordered. Find everything. I want to know exactly what happened to them, so everyone knows that story. The humans defeated the Kreth in battle and took back their prisoners. No. Morthax shook his head slowly. Everyone knows the simple version. I want to know what really happened. Every detail. Every death. Everything. The young diplomat bowed and hurried away to obey. 3 hours later, Morthax sat alone in his private office, watching the classified recordings that most species had tried to forget. He saw human ships moving through space like angry swarms of insects. He saw the Kreth defenses falling apart. He saw the human soldiers landing on the Kreth homeworld with a fury that seemed almost supernatural, and he saw what came after. The Kreth had not just lost a war, they had been systematically dismantled. Every military base destroyed, every weapon factory turned to dust, every leader hunted down, no matter where they tried to hide. The humans had not fought for territory or resources. They had fought for revenge. Pure burning. Endless revenge for the children who had been taken. Morthax turned off the recording and sat in darkness for a long time. What have we done? He whispered to the empty room. On Earth, in a building that looked quite ordinary from the outside, admirals and generals gathered around a table covered with maps and screens. At the head of the table sat Admiral Patricia Webb, a woman with gray hair and eyes that had seen many battles. How soon can we mobilize the full fleet? She asked. 48 hours for combat readiness, answered General Marcus Hall. But ma'am, are we really doing this? War with the entire council? Patricia looked at the faces around the table. Men and women who had children of their own. Men and women who understood exactly what was at stake. They took 12 of our children, she said quietly. They voted to take them, knowing exactly what they were doing. They thought we would back down. They thought we would negotiate and compromise and eventually accept it. She stood up and placed both hands flat on the table. They were wrong. We are going to bring those children home, and we are going to make sure that no one in this galaxy ever forgets what happens when you touch our young. Is that understood? Every person in the room answered as one, yes. Ma'am. The war machines of humanity began to wake up and across the galaxy. Species who had forgotten the first law were about to receive a very painful reminder. Admiral Patricia Webb stood on the bridge of her flagship, the United Earth. Around her, holographic screens floated in the air, showing maps and numbers and the positions of ships. What those screens showed was something the galaxy had never seen before. Every human warship was moving. Every single one. Ships that had been patrolling. Quiet boarders turned and headed for Velrothi's space. Ships that had been docked for repairs launched with crews still working on them. Ships that had been scheduled for retirement were pulled back into service with fresh weapons and angry crews. But it was not just the military ships docked cargo. Vessels volunteered to carry supplies. Medical ships prepared for casualties. Even private ships owned by ordinary citizens flew to rally points, their owners demanding to help in any way they could. Status report. Patricia ordered Captain Daniel Reyes stepped forward. He was a tall man with dark skin and steady hands. He had served under Patricia for 15 years and had never seen her look so determined. 4th Fleet has reached the Velrothi border and is holding position. 7th Fleet and 9th Fleet are at the jump points, ready to move on your order. The Marine divisions are loaded onto transports and prepared for ground operations. How many ships total? 2,147 combat vessels, plus another 800 support ships. Patricia nodded slowly. The Velrothi Defense Fleet had about 400 ships. Even with help from the other council species who had voted for the attack, they might have 800 total. Humanity was bringing more than twice that number. What about civilian evacuation? Patricia asked. Complete. Every human citizen has been removed from council space. Our colonies near the border are on full defensive alert. Everyone who could leave has left. Good. Patricia turned to look out the viewport at the stars. Somewhere out there, 12 children were waiting for rescue. Scared, maybe hurt, wondering if anyone was coming for them. Any word on the children's location? Daniel's face became harder. Intelligence reports they have been moved to a secure facility on Valrath Prime. The council is calling them guests, and claiming they are being well treated, while negotiations continue negotiations. Patricia made the word sound like a curse. They think we will negotiate for our own children. They have offered to release the children in exchange for territorial concessions. They want us to give up 3 colony worlds and formally apologize for human aggression in the outer sectors. Patricia turned back to face her command staff. 20 men and women, all of them parents or grandparents, all of them with the same cold fire in their eyes. They still do not understand, she said. After 300 years of living alongside us, they still do not understand what we are. She walked to the main communication panel and opened a channel to all fleet commanders. Her image appeared on screens across thousands of ships in front of millions of human crew members. This is Admiral Webb. By now, you all know why we are here. 12 of our children were taken by the Galactic Council. They were taken deliberately, with full knowledge of who they were and what that would mean. The Council believed we would be afraid. They believed we would talk and delay and eventually accept their demands. She paused, letting her words sink in. I served with many of your parents in the fleet, some of your grandparents too. I was a young lieutenant during the Kreth incident. I remember what we became when pushed too far. I remember what we did to protect our young. The Council has forgotten those lessons. It is time to remind them. On every ship, crew members stood a little straighter. Gunners checked their weapons one more time. Pilots ran final tests on their fighters. Engineers pushed engines to maximum readiness. They were not just soldiers following orders. They were humans protecting their children. It was the most natural thing in the universe to them. Far away, on Velroth Prime, a young Velrothi guard named Thex stood at his post outside the facility where the human children were being held. He was nervous, though he tried not to show it. The children were in a large room on the third underground level. They had beds and food, but no windows, and no way to contact the outside world. Dex had seen them when he delivered their meals. They were small and fragile-looking compared to Velrathi young. Some of them cried at night. Dex did not like this assignment. He had taken it only because it paid well, and he needed money for his family. But something about guarding children, even alien children, felt wrong to him. His grandmother had talked about humans sometimes. She had been alive during the Kreth incident, one of the few Velrathi who had witnessed it up close. She had shown Thex recordings that the government had tried to destroy. Recordings of human ships filling the sky like angry stars. Recordings of human soldiers fighting with a fury that seemed impossible. Never take a posting near human space, she had warned him. Never give them a reason to notice you. And whatever you do, never, ever harm their children. Lex had thought she was being dramatic. Old people often exaggerated stories from their youth. Humans did not seem so frightening. They were soft, with thin skin and weak bodies. How dangerous could they really be? Now, standing at his post with rumors flying about a human fleet opera, Ching Vex was beginning to understand his grandmother's fear. See anything? Asked his partner, an older Velrathi named Corks. Dex looked up at the sky, visible through the dome above them. Not yet. But communications say the human fleet left their border 3 hours ago. They could arrive any time. Corks laughed nervously. Let them come. We have 400 ships defending this system, plus reinforcements from the Draxians and the Menthari. They would be stupid to attack. The Kreth thought the same thing. Corks's laughter stopped. That was different. The Kreth were weakened by civil war. We are strong, united. The humans cannot possibly beat the combined forces of 7 species. Dex did not answer. He kept watching the sky. An hour later, first alarms started screaming. Dex ran to the observation post and looked through the magnification screens. What he saw made his legs go weak. Ships. Human ships. Not hundreds. Thousands. They were coming out of jump space in waves, like an endless flood of metal and weapons. The stars themselves seemed to disappear behind the sheer number of vessels. That is impossible, Corks whispered beside him. They cannot have that many ships. But they did. Admiral Patricia Webb watched her fleet emerge into Velrathi space. Around her flagship, wave after wave of human vessels took up attack positions. Destroyers and cruisers formed protective screens. Carriers launched fighters that swarmed like insects. Battleships moved into bombardment range. The Velrathi fleet is scrambling, Daniel reported. They are trying to form a defensive line around the planet. They can try, Patricia said. All ships begin attack run. Fighter wings, engage enemy defensive positions. Marines, prepare for orbital drop. She looked at the planet below, where 12 children were waiting. We are coming, she said softly. Hold on just a little longer. We are coming. The Battle of Velrath Prime was about to begin, and the galaxy was about to learn a lesson it would never forget. The Battle of Velrath Prime lasted 16 hours. Military experts across the galaxy would study it for centuries, trying to understand what had happened. But those who were there knew the truth. It was not really a battle at all. It was a lesson. The Velrathi defense fleet had 400 ships. They had been joined by reinforcements from 3 other council species, bringing their total to nearly 800 vessels. They had fortified positions in orbit. They knew the space around their planet better than anyone. They had every advantage that should have mattered. Humanity brought 2,000 ships, and numbers alone did not explain what happened next. The human fleet moved with perfect coordination. Every ship knew exactly where to be and when to be there. Every fighter pilot flew as if they had practiced these exact maneuvers 1,000 times, because they had, since the Kreth incident 300 years ago. Every human military officer had trained for one specific type of mission above all others. child rescue operations. It did not matter if they served on a battleship or a supply vessel. It did not matter if they were admirals or fresh recruits. Everyone learned how to retrieve human children from enemy hands. They had simulation rooms that recreated every type of facility where children might be held. They had rescue teams that could operate on any planet in any environment. They had plans for situations that would never happen, just in case they did. Now all that training was being used for real. Lieutenant. Commander Susan Drake flew her fighter through a storm of enemy fire. Around her, the orbital defense platforms of Velrath Prime were exploding one by one. Her squadron had been assigned to disable the planetary shields, and they were doing their job with cold efficiency. Susan thought about her daughter back on Earth. Little Amy was only 6 years old. She loved to draw pictures of spaceships and dreamed of being a pilot like her mother someday. 12. Children just like Amy were trapped on the planet below. 12 families were waiting for news. 12 sets of parents had not slept since they heard about the attack. Squadron, watch your spacing, Susan ordered through her communicator. We need those shield generators down in 4 minutes. Commander, I have enemy fighters incoming. 40 plus on intercept course. Susan checked her weapons. Full load. All systems green. Engage and destroy. No survivors. No escape pods. They knew what they were doing when they voted for this. They made their choice. It was harsh. There was no mercy in her voice. But this was not about being kind. This was about protecting children. Human children. Her squadron tore through the enemy fighters like they were made of paper. On the ground, Master Sergeant Kevin Park led his Marine company through the corridors of the detention facility. They had landed in drop pods, falling through the atmosphere like meteors while the battle raged in space. Above them, the facility was supposed to be a secret. Its location was classified at the highest levels of Velrathi security. The humans had found it within 6 hours of the war beginning. They had complete blueprints within 12 hours. When you took human children, humans became very motivated to find information. Kevin moved down a dark hallway with his weapon raised. Behind him, his Marines followed in perfect formation. They had trained in a recreation of this exact facility for the past 30 hours. They knew every corner, every door, every potential ambush point. Room clear, reported one of his soldiers. Moving to secondary corridor, said another. Tact. 2 guards? Neutralized. The Velrathi guards never had a chance. They were trained security officers, good at their jobs. But they were not fighting soldiers. They were fighting parents in uniform. There was a difference. Kevin's team reached the 3rd underground level in 7 minutes. They lost no one. The Velrathi lost everyone who stood in their way. The door to the children's holding room was reinforced steel. It took 4 seconds to blow it open. Kevin stepped through the smoke, his weapon ready for any threat. What he saw instead made his heart break and sing at the same time. 12 children huddled together in the corner of the room. They ranged in age from 8 to 14. Their faces were dirty and tear-stained. Their clothes were the same ones they had been wearing when their ship was attacked. Some of them were shaking, but they were alive. Kevin lowered his weapon and held up his empty hands. "It is okay," he said, keeping his voice gentle and calm. "We are here to take you home." A young boy, maybe 10 years old, looked up at him. The boy's eyes were red from crying, but there was something else in them now. Hope. "They said nobody would come," the boy whispered. "They said Earth could not fight the whole council. They said we would be here forever." Kevin smiled. It was the first time he had smiled since he heard about the attack. They were wrong. He knelt down to be at eye level with the children. "My name is Kevin. I am a Marine, and I am here with a lot of friends. We are going to get you out of here and back to your families. But I need you to be brave for just a little while longer. Can you do that?" The children nodded. Some of them started crying again, but these were different tears. Relief, joy, the knowledge that they had not been forgotten. Kevin activated his communicator. Package secured. 12 souls, alive and intact, ready for extraction. Above them, in orbit, The Valrathi fleet was dying, not retreating, not surrendering. Dying, the human commanders had given one order at the start of the battle. Every ship that participated in the attack on the Meadowlark was to be destroyed. Not captured, not disabled, destroyed. Admiral Patricia Webb watched from her bridge as the last Valrathi battleship broke apart under concentrated fire. Escape pods launched from the dying vessel, and she let them go. The crews were not the ones who had made the decision to attack children. They were just soldiers following orders, but their ships would never threaten anyone again. Admiral Daniel reported, "We have confirmation from the ground team. All 12 children have been recovered. They are being transported to the medical ship now." Patricia closed her eyes and let out a breath she felt like she had been holding for days. Condition? Scared and tired, but no serious injuries. The Valrathi did not physically harm them. That is the only reason we are not glassing their planet right now. She opened her eyes and looked at the destruction around her. The Valrathi defense fleet was gone. Their orbital platforms were wreckage. Their reinforcements from other species had been scattered or destroyed. Open a channel to the planet's surface. All frequencies. I want everyone to hear this. Her image appeared on every screen on Velrath Prime. In homes and offices and government buildings. Velrathi citizens looked up at the human admiral with fear in their eyes. "Your fleet is destroyed," Patricia said, her voice flat and cold. "Your orbital defenses are disabled. We have recovered our children, alive and unharmed. That is the only reason your planet still exists." She paused, letting the words sink in. This message is not just for the Valrathi. It is for every species in this galaxy. You were warned. You knew the law. You knew what would happen if you broke it. You broke it anyway. The broadcast shifted to show images of the children being carried to safety. Then it showed the burning wreckage of the Valrathi fleet. "Harm our children," Patricia continued, "and there is no force in this universe that will protect you. This is not a threat. It is a promise written in the blood of your fleet. Remember it." The broadcast ended. High Chancellor Morthax sat in his office watching his world's defenses burn. He had been so certain, so confident that humans would see reason, so sure that they would not dare attack the UPS Council directly. He had been wrong about everything. His communication officer appeared at the door. "Chancellor, the human fleet is holding position. They are not attacking the surface. What do they want? They have sent a list of demands. Surrender of all officials who voted for the attack. Payment for damages. Formal acknowledgement of the crime." Morthax looked at the list. The demands were harsh. They would cripple the Valrathi economy for generations. They would end careers and lives, but looking at the wreckage of his fleet, Morthax knew they had no choice. "Accept everything," he said quietly. "Accept it all." The war was over. It had lasted less than a day, but the consequences would last forever. 6 months had passed since the Battle of Velrath Prime, and the galaxy had changed forever. The Galactic Council still existed. Its great hall still floated in space, and ambassadors still gathered to discuss matters of importance. But everyone knew the truth. The Council was no longer the most powerful force in the galaxy. That honor belonged to humanity now. The 7 species who had voted to attack the Meadowlark paid a terrible price. They were forced to give money and resources to Earth for decades to come. Their militaries were reduced to small defense forces, watched constantly by human observers. They were no longer allowed to build certain types of weapons or ships. High Chancellor Morthax was removed from power by his own people. They were angry at him for bringing destruction to their world. They handed him over to human authorities, and he was put on trial. The entire galaxy watched as evidence was presented. Every vote, every decision, every moment that led to the attack on the children. Morthax was sentenced to life in prison on a small asteroid far from any star. He would spend his remaining years alone, with nothing but time to think about what he had done. But the real change was harder to see, and far more important, on every world. In every language, beings told the story of what happened to the Velrathi. Parents told children, teachers told students, leaders told their people. The details changed depending on who was telling the story. Sometimes the human fleet was described as countless as stars. Sometimes the marine rescue was portrayed as humans walking through walls like ghosts. Sometimes the children were said to have been rescued by 1,000 soldiers or by just one brave warrior, but the core message never changed. Humans protected their young with a power that seemed almost magical. To threaten a human child was to invite destruction upon yourself and everyone around you. Ambassador Linda Park sat in a meeting room with Kixfall, a young Venari diplomat. The Venari had been one of the 3 species who voted against the attack on the Meadowlark. They had tried to warn the others. They had remembered the lessons of history. Now, they were trying to build a new relationship with humanity. The Council wishes to formally invite humans to take leadership positions, Kixfall said carefully. Not just voting members. Real leadership. We believe it is necessary for the future of the galaxy. Linda raised an eyebrow. That is quite different from how we were treated 6 months ago. 6 months ago, we were fools. Kixfall's 4 eyes met Linda's 2 without looking away. We mistook your patience for weakness. We thought that because you did not conquer and dominate like other powerful species, you were not truly strong. We understand now. What exactly do you understand? Kixfall took a moment to choose her words. Your species is not dangerous because of your ships or your weapons. Many species have those things. You are dangerous because you remember something that the rest of us have forgotten. And what is that? That some things are worth fighting for without calculation, without compromise, without limits. Kixfall paused. Your children taught us that lesson. The 12 young humans who were taken showed the entire galaxy what humanity truly is. Linda was quiet for a long moment. She thought about those children. She had met them after the rescue. Some of them were recovering well. Others still had nightmares. They would carry scars from this experience for the rest of their lives. The children who were taken have suffered, Linda said finally. Some of them will never be completely the same. Your council did that to them? Yes. Kixfall did not try to make excuses. And we will spend the rest of our existence trying to earn forgiveness. Not because we fear your fleet, though we do. Because what we did was wrong. We knew it was wrong. We did it anyway, and innocent children paid the price for our arrogance. For the first time in months, Linda felt something other than cold anger toward the council species. There was something honest in Kixfall's words. Something that suggested real understanding, not just fear. Humanity will consider your request, Linda said. But understand this. We do not forgive easily. We never forget. Every species in this galaxy will be watching to see if you have truly learned. Kixfall bowed her head. We understand. And we will prove ourselves worthy, whatever it takes. However long it takes. Far away on Earth, Commander Nathan Cole sat in a hospital room. Sunlight came through the window, falling on a small bed where his niece Emma was sitting up. Coloring pictures with crayons he had brought for her, Emma was one of the 12 children who had been rescued. She was 10 years old, with brown hair and eyes that used to sparkle with curiosity. Now those eyes were often distant, looking at things that were not there. The doctors said she was getting better. Every day a little bit better. But Nathan knew that some wounds took longer to heal than others. Uncle Nathan? Emma's voice was soft and uncertain. Yes, sweetheart. She put down her crayons and looked at him. When we were in that place, the alien guards told us things. They said humans were weak. They said we were small and soft and nobody cared about us. They said no one would ever come to save us. Nathan felt his heart tighten. He reached out and took her small hand in his. They said all of that? Emma nodded. I tried not to believe them. I tried to remember what Mom and Dad told me about being brave. But some nights, it was really hard. Some nights I thought maybe they were right. Nathan moved to sit on the edge of her bed. He looked into her eyes and spoke with absolute certainty. Emma, those guards were wrong about everything. Do you know what happened when Earth found out you were taken? Do you know what we did? She shook her head. We sent every ship we had. Not some ships. Every single one. Admirals and generals and soldiers from all over the world stopped what they were doing and came to get you. People who had never met you, who did not know your name, flew across the galaxy because you needed help. Emma's eyes were wide. Really? Really? And do you know why? Because we are humans? Nathan smiled. Because you are our children. You are all our children. Every single human child belongs to every single human adult. When someone hurts one of you, they hurt all of us. And when someone threatens one of you, they have to face all of us. Emma thought about this for a moment. Then she asked, "The aliens were really, really wrong, weren't they?" Nathan pulled her into a gentle hug, careful not to hold too tight. "Yes, Emma, they were really, really wrong. And now the whole galaxy knows it. Nobody will ever make that mistake again." Outside the hospital window, human ships moved through the sky. Patrol vessels and transport ships, and the occasional warship, all moving with quiet purpose. They were protecting, watching, making sure that every child on Earth could look up at the stars without fear. The first law of the galaxy had been written in fire and blood. It was carved into the memory of every species that breathed. It was taught to young ones as soon as they could understand. Do not attack the human. Children, ever some species, had needed to learn the hard way. But they learned. They always learned. And in the years that followed, as humanity took its place as leaders among the stars, they never forgot why they had fought so hard. They never forgot the 12 children who had been taken. They never forgot the lesson they had taught the galaxy. The universe was vast and full of wonders. There were peaceful species and dangerous ones, friends and enemies. Mysteries waiting to be discovered. But one thing was certain. From the smallest moon to the largest star cluster. From the oldest civilization to the newest. Spacefaring race, human children were sacred, and humanity would burn down the heavens themselves to keep them safe. That was simply who they were. That was simply what they did, and the galaxy had learned to accept it.